Good evening. Welcome to the 9th annual Odin Hall of Fame. I kind of got thrown into this thing this year. Our mayor, fire chief, he called me back in April and he said, didn't think Sammy was going to be able to make it. And they said, we need somebody to speak at the Hall of Fame. Can you do it? And I said, well, you sure Sammy ain't going to be able to do it? Well, we don't know. I said, sure, throw me in there. He said, well, we're going to shorten things up just a little bit, try to speed it up. And I said, oh, I'm the right guy for that. So here I am. I look out in the crowd and I see a lot of the Hall of Famers out here. I see one sitting over in the bleachers, blue shirt. Dr. Stan Morrison is sitting over there, Hall of Famer. First Odin Eagle high school player to score 1,000 points. He's also the first Odin Eagle to pull 1,000 teeth. Good job, Doc. Kenny Vaughn sitting over there in the corner. One of the Odin's finest high school basketball players, Hall of Famer. Played a lot of ball with him. I want to mention him a little bit with Dave here, a couple of things they got in common. See Mike Knapp sitting in the front row. He wished he would have went to Odin High School. He's here to support Dave tonight, so that's a good thing. So I'm going to get started off with honoring Dave, but I can't just start off by just not telling a few stories. And I know he's nervous, and everybody's probably a little nervous to get up there and speak tonight. But I will say this. When I was in high school, we had our English teacher, Ruth Hale, and I do believe she's been inducted into the Hall of Fame. No? But she passed away, correct? I had her for English and speech. And I didn't do so good in English, and I don't know the speech part. I guess that's why I'm standing up here, because I didn't like doing written book reports. But she always said, when you get up in front of the crowd, she said, and everybody's heard this, just pretend everybody's in their underwear. So a couple of years ago, when I got out and spoke for the 78, 79 baseball team, because none of the other guys wanted to do it, so I got up and spoke, and I thought, well, I'll try that. So I looked out in the crowd, thinking, okay, everybody's in underwear. And the first person I seen was Bruce Parrish. And I thought, I'm not going to do that tonight. So Bruce, you're good to go. Now, what I'd like to say about Dave is he was a fantastic pitcher. Awesome. And we'd get on the bus and we'd go on the road games. And this is where I saw a lot of this in Kenny, is in basketball, I noticed that these are good athletes that do this. Kenny, we'd sit together on the bus, and we'd get to the town and see the sign. We'd be joking the whole way there. As soon as we'd get to that town and see the sign, he went silent. He got prepared to play the game. And Dave was a lot like that on the days that he knew he was pitching. We'd be on the bus, we'd be heading to ball games, and we got close to the town. Dave was a joker, but when we got close to that town, Dave got quiet, and it was down to business. And when we got to the ballpark, you really kind of actually didn't like you, because you were quite a loner when we got to the ballpark. And he was all business, he really was. And he worked fast in games, and he was really untouchable. But Dave, I don't know if we've ever said anything about this, but I was telling my wife earlier today, you got to realize with a pitcher like Dave and his talent, we knew going into a game that our chances were very good to win. But also the pressure was put on the team because we knew the other team was throwing their best at us. So we were going to have to go against their best. We had our best. So we could score just a couple runs, and we knew we had the game. But there was a lot of pressure on us, even though we had one of the best pitchers around. And it was a happy-go-lucky time where you know you got your ace going, but you know you got to have your best game going too. But we used to always come out on top. Another story I would like to tell is we'd go to Salem and play Legion ball. And they had this team that come out of St. Louis. It was the best 15, 16, and 17-year-old Legion players in the metro area. And we never had ever heard of anything like this. And our coach, Harry Easley, said, this Kiwanis baseball all-stars are coming to Salem and we're going to play them. So we were like, okay. We didn't know what to expect. We knew it was an all-star team. These guys pulled up in a bus, red, white, and blue with stars all over it. And we thought the Harlem Globetrotters were in town. Did we not? And they got out of the bus, literally looked like the Harlem Globetrotters. Red, white, and blue stars. Their pants were red, white, and blue stripes. Their coach stood out in front of the dugout in a rocking chair. And they had their own announcer, they had their own programs, and it was quite a little show. Well, Harry, he's a pretty nervous guy when it comes to big games, but he told Dave, he said, you got the ball. And we played a 9-inning game against them because it was just, an all-star game type thing. So we pitched 9 innings that game. Harry threw him the ball. Harry was a guy that he didn't like pitchers to walk. He'd get pretty upset when a pitcher would walk. With Dave, he never did because he knew that it was okay. He was very calm when Dave was pitching. Well, this particular night, their leadoff batter, and we had talked about this about a month ago, we didn't really know. Did we decide his name was Steely Dan because he was a base stealer or something? They would announce his name and he got at the bat. Dave's probably nervous, I'm sure, and he walked this guy. Well, in the stats, it said that he was like 68 stolen bases and not been caught one time. Pretty impressive. So, Dave walks him. He's on first base. He's leading off. They're ranting and raving. They're trying to get him all messed up. But Dave looked over at this kid, and he's left-handed. Made his first move, threw it over. They start what we called back then ragging on him. And I thought, okay, first move, they think that's his best. He tossed it over the second time. Guy got back on. They're thinking they got him down. What they didn't know is Dave had 3 moves. He had a pickoff move. He had a throwover move. And then he had the move. Well, on the third time over, he gave him the move. That kid was standing there, didn't know what to do. They tagged him out off the base. So when they left that night, not only did we beat them, that kid left there, and he got picked off, no stolen bases. So I don't think they had a stat for pickoffs. I mean, he probably never did pick off, but we know that he was silent for the night because he had one of the best pickoff moves there ever was, and it was quite a night. You remember that, don't you? Yeah. But it was a fun time. So, a month ago, we went out. Maria told me, she said, now Scott remembers, she goes, this is an awards banquet, it's not a roast. Maria, you're right, it's not a roast unless you got the carrots and potatoes, and I got some carrots and potatoes. But I told him I'd keep it short and sweet. So, I'm going to read on this plaque here. It says, Odin High School Hall of Fame. Dave Daniels was a 3-time Midland Trail Conference All-Conference performer. As a junior, he led the Eagles to a regional title in 1979, pitching every postseason game that season. He dominated his senior season, going 9-1 in the fall and posting a 0.69 ERA. That's pretty awesome. Revered by teammates and opponents as a top hurler in Eagle history. And that is very, very true, Dave. Very, very true. Before I call you up here, Dave, I know you're nervous. I got another message here that I want to read to you. This message says, "Hey Dave, I just wanted to congratulate you on being inducted into the Odin Hall of Fame. What an awesome honor. Wish I could have seen you play, but I've always heard how great of a pitcher you were. I also want to say that I appreciate all the support you have given me throughout my baseball career. I remember working on pitching with you, Brian, and my dad any Sunday afternoons. Great times, great memories. Enjoy the moment. Proud of you, Riley." Folks, that's Riley Martin of Chicago Cubs.
Dave, welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. I've been looking around. There's some ball players here that I got to play with. Great bunch of guys that was here in Oakland I got to play with. It was probably the highlight of my whole life to play baseball. I played baseball since I was 8 years old. And it really didn't come around to what it really turned out to be a great thing to play baseball. It was playing for the Eagles. I had some great coaches. Jim Mulvane really pushed me. Larry Kelly was my last year. He was a great coach. We had a great time. I was kind of hoping, I was kind of hoping Dave Campbell was here because I beat him up really bad as a catcher. I felt terrible. I wanted to apologize, but I guess he's not here tonight. We was talking the other night. I was thinking of all the guys. I was thinking of we had a game in Farina, an invitation tournament, which was my very first pitching attempt in high school. It was the very first game of the year. I was just a freshman. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I went to the bullpen, warmed up, did what I've always done. Mike Henson was my catcher. I always looked up to Mike. There was Oscar was on the team, Mike Henson, all those seniors, and I always thought, man, those guys were the greatest baseball players I'd ever seen. I always wanted to play ball with those guys. So I get my chance. We go into the first. Everything's doing good. We're moving along pretty good, I feel like. Before we started, Mike Henson came out and asked me, he goes, "So what do you throw? What kind of pitches?" And I said, "Well, I got a fastball." Of course, I'm excited, so I'm naming off like everything I've ever tried to learn. And he's like, "Dude, I've only got one hand to get singles, so you got to kind of keep it down to something, to the minimum here." He said, "How about like a fastball, a curveball, and maybe a changeup? Let's go with that." In that order. So that's fine. So about the third inning, I was having trouble with a guy. He kept fouling the ball off. I couldn't get him. So Mike decides to have me throw a changeup, which it's a new pitch I was just trying to learn. I never really got the whole gist of it, but I'll throw it, whatever. So I reared back and let her fly, and it went over the backstop, out into the cars, bounced off a few cars. I'm like, wow. So here he comes. Mike gets the next ball, comes walking out, always smiling. He's smiling. He goes, "How about we wait on that until we practice it just a little bit more, maybe try to keep it in the ballpark." So, I don't know. It was a great time in my life. Also, like I said, I wasn't planning on saying much. I just want to get up here and thank all of you for coming. I wanted to say, the person who never missed a game was my dad. He made every game. He was sick in the hospital and hung an IV bag from somewhere in the car and came out and watched me play. Never missed a game. And I always remember he had two things I always heard him say: either "great job" or get your head out of your butt. And I'm hoping tonight, if he's watching, if he's saying great job and not, get your head out of your butt. But thank you all.
All right, I'm in the same boat as Scotty Williams. About a month ago, got the same phone call that he got, and Greg said, "Hey, Scotty's going to do some of it. Would you like to do some of it?" I said, "Why can't Scott do it all?" I don't have to speak up here. I don't really like to speak up here, but I said, if Scott doesn't want to do it all, I'll come up here and present for someone. So here I am. So the second Hall of Fame member that we are going to induct tonight is Lori McClellan. She was the class of 1992. Is that right? So if you want to add up, she's probably about 50. Anyway, she was a freshman whenever I was a senior, so I didn't get to see her play much. But I do remember her being a very talented softball player. So I'm going to read what her plaque says. Lori McClellan, a four-time all-conference standout, and 1992 Midland Trail Conference MVP, which would have been her senior year. Lori McClellan also excelled as a first baseman and pitcher through high school, as well as Kaskaskia College. As a dedicated educator, she spent 20 years at Centralia High School, serving 8 years as the head coach of the softball team and 6 years coaching select travel softball with the Collinsville Extreme. It's with my great pleasure to introduce Lori McClellan.
Be short and sweet. So anyway, I want to start by extending my deepest thanks to the selection committee. Looking around this room and seeing the caliber of athletes honored here tonight, I'm truly humbled. People often ask about the stats or the records from my playing days, but if I'm being honest, I couldn't tell you my career batting average, my ERA, anything, if my life depended on it. I never played for the numbers. I played because I loved the dirt, I loved the game, I loved the competition, I loved my coaches, I loved my teammates and my friends. I just loved being part of that team. For me, every game was simply about giving everything I had, playing for the pure joy of the sport. To be recognized with the Hall of Fame induction for simply doing what I loved is the greatest honor I could imagine. Now, my journey started, we were playing little lassie ball, and my first coaches are sitting up there, Michelle Collier and Terry Ingalls. I'll never forget that. We had a little party at Michelle's house after the season was over, and those were good times. That's where it all started. But I played little lassie ball, and we played in Centralia. It was a good time, and I continued into junior high before I found my home on the mound at first base. I was lucky enough to start all 4 years of high school, eventually earning the Midland Trail Conference MVP my senior year, and moving on to play at Kaskaskia College. But when I look back at all those years, I don't see the trophies or newspaper clippings. I see the bus rides, long practices, and the people who shaped me into the person I am today. And I do have to tell a quick story though. I don't care for keeping track of my stats and everything, but I love to do the book. And one of my favorite things was Coach Sarah Miller, who's also up there. She drove our little bus, the short bus is what we all used to say. And we would sit up at the front on the I guess it's the heater part of the bus, and it's totally illegal, but Sarah didn't care, and two of us would sit up there, and we'd do the stats after the game on the book as Sarah would be driving. If we came across a police car, she's like, get down. So we'd duck real quick, and we'd get down. But that was the greatest part. I loved it. And like I said, one of the people who had the biggest impact on me is Sarah Miller. She was more than a coach to me. She was a mentor who saw a kid who just wanted to play hard, and she gave me the tools to be a leader. She taught me that doing your best wasn't just a cliche. It was a standard to live by. She was a huge reason why I ended up behind the clipboard later in life, trying to pass that same passion on to the next generation of players. Of course, Sarah wasn't just a coach, like I said, she was also our somewhat unconventional transportation. We had so much fun as a team, and the memories we created were legendary. I'll never forget, Sarah drove a Nissan 280ZX, and we were all heading out to practice at Odin Park, and Sarah used to give us rides, so she'd have the hatchback up, and we'd all be piled in the back. They were the coolest people on earth. And we're heading out there, and all of a sudden the speed bump comes up. And lo and behold, Crystal Mass was sitting in the back, and we hit that speed bump, and Crystal bumped right out of the back of her car in her culottes and landed on the road. She was okay though, she was good, she was good. But every time I see a Nissan or a pair of culottes, I'm transported back to that moment. So we played hard, but man, we had a blast. That joy is the spirit I tried to carry with me when I started teaching at Centralia High School in 1999. Whether I was in the classroom for 20 years or on the dirt for 8 years as the head coach, my message to my players and later to my teams in Collegeville was always the same. Don't worry about the stats. Play for each other. Play because you love it. Now, as I finish my teaching career at Mount Zion Junior High, which I swore I'd never teach junior high school. I don't know why I'm ending it on that note, but we'll move on. Anyway, I realized that the scoreboards eventually do go dark, but the memories of falling out of hatchbacks and the friendships made on the diamond last forever. In conclusion, thank you again to the committee, to my former teammates, to Crystal for being such a good sport about her grand exit from the Nissan, and to Sarah Miller for leading the way. The honor belongs to all of us. Thank you.
All right, up next, I'm going to introduce is Steve Decker. Steve was a senior when I was a freshman in high school. A lot of my freshman year depended largely on what Steve did during the baseball game, if he remembers. So in baseball, once the pitcher or catcher reaches base, you can have a courtesy runner or a pinch runner for them. So either when Steve or Greg would get on base, single or whatever, I was the pinch runner. So I thank you, Steve, for getting on base. Yeah. No, but Steve, I said he was a senior, and there might have been more seniors, but it was him, Greg McGrew, and my oldest brother, Robbie. Those were the three seniors. Was there any more? Those were the three that I remember. And I know as a freshman, and there were just two freshmen that played that year, me and West Donahoe. And I know we looked up to those three guys, even though one of them was my older brother. He wouldn't cut me no slack, and neither would those guys. When it was practice time or game time, it was business. So, Steve, I appreciate it. Could you imagine having Steve and Dave Daniels on the same pitching staff? That'd been pretty righty and lefty. It'd been pretty tough to hit. So, anyway, I'm going to read Steve's plaque. Steve Decker is one of Odin High School's most accomplished pitchers. He set a school record of 17 pitching wins during the 1985-86 season, leading the Eagles to a Midland Trail Conference championship and a program record 37-win season. A two-time first-team all-conference selection, Steve Decker threw 2 no-hitters, was co-MVP of the 1985 Odin round-robin tournament, and ranks among the Illinois High School Association's all-time pitching leaders, including, and here's his stats, most innings pitched in a season, first 153. Wow, first. That's a lot of innings. Most strikeouts in a season, 219, which ranks him 5th. Most wins in a season, he had 17 wins. That's tied for 6th in the state of Illinois. Most innings pitched in his career, 326 innings. That's 9th all time. And most strikeouts in a career, 425, and that is 17th all time. Steve Decker continued his baseball career at Kaskaskia College and then the University of Illinois. His career exemplified excellence both on the mound and in the classroom. This year, Steve Decker.
Well, as you might expect, I'm really happy to be in Odin tonight for this honor. Thank you to the committee for extending this honor to me. It truly means more than I can probably put into words. And congratulations to tonight's other honorees, well deserved. As I've thought about tonight and what this recognition means, one word kept popping up, and that was grateful. Grateful for the people that invested in me, grateful for the lessons that I learned along the way, and grateful for the fun I had playing a game that I loved. And grateful for a place like Odin. I had a chance earlier today to drive out by the ballpark and tour the school. It's been several years since I've seen either one of them, and it doesn't take long. The memories just come rushing back, and you quickly realize how special this place is to you. And so, in the spirit of gratitude, I need to say thank you to some folks that were really important in my baseball journey. And unlike Lori, short and sweet to me is probably 10 minutes. So strap in and hang on. I'll start with my teammates, and several of them are here tonight. John and Sam, and Brent, Jeff, and I know there are others. Dan, baseball is a team game, and I was lucky to be just one part of some really great teams. And I played alongside guys that made me better, guys like the guys I just mentioned. And truthfully, I played with some guys who made me look a lot better than I really was. Greg McGrew was one of those guys. Greg caught most of the pitches I threw in an Eagles uniform. And we had a special relationship, not just as friends, but as pitcher and catcher. A relationship that was built on trust and instinct and really just knowing what each other was thinking without even having to say a word. And if you understand baseball, Dave, Jeff, I know you guys as pitchers understand how special the relationship is between a pitcher and a catcher. I think about Greg often. I wish he was here tonight. The fun that we had and what we accomplished together, he's certainly a big reason that I'm standing here tonight. But Greg was just one of many of the guys that made me better. We pushed each other, we picked each other up, and whatever we accomplished, we did it together. So to all my teammates that are here tonight, thank you. You're the reason that baseball was so much fun for me. You're the reason that the memories have stayed with me all these years. And I'm here tonight because of you. And I'm proud to share this honor with each of you. Now to my coaches. And I saw Larry Kelly earlier. He told me if I said anything bad about him, he would make me run sprints after the ceremony. So you're safe, Larry. I used to think a coach's success was measured by wins and losses, but today I think I see it differently. I think a coach's success is determined by the impact that they have on the lives of the players. And I want to take a minute to recognize the coaches that impacted me, and there were quite a few. I'm tempted to go all the way back to the very first team I played on, so if I missed someone along the way and you're here, I apologize in advance. But these were the guys that shaped me into a baseball player. Raymond Woods, Bob Burton, Gerald Lively, Bill Roddy, Gary Bowles, Larry Kelly, Ken Dillingham, Roger Brummett, John Spears, Les Raines, Bud Hollenkamp, Spike Cheatham, Donnie Walker, Jimmy Brandon, Pino Castellari, Larry Smith, and Augie Garrido. That's quite a list. So to those guys, I would say thank you. Thank you for what you invested in me. You taught me the game of baseball. You taught me how to compete. You taught me how to handle success and failure. And more importantly, you taught me how to be a part of something that was much bigger than any one person. Those lessons stuck with me and they're still with me today. But there are two coaches that stand out for the impact that they had on me, Chuck Hawley and Rick Jackson. Chuck was my baseball mentor for as long as I can remember. He was one of my first coaches back in the days of Odin's Bad News Bears, when Chuck and Raymond Woods would somehow load an entire team, a bag of balls, a bag of bats, a bag of helmets into the Woods family Buick and take us to wherever we were playing that weekend. And Chuck was one of my last coaches as my pitching coach at Kaskaskia College. Those of you that know Chuck know that it would be impossible to capture Chuck's essence, everything that he taught me. And if you knew Chuck, you probably understand why it's a good reason that I don't try to capture a lot of the things that he taught me. But the most important thing that Chuck taught me was this, that baseball was supposed to be fun, and he never let me forget this. I took a lot of trips in Old Lou, which is what he named his car because his license plate had the letters LU on it. He told endless stories that got funnier every time he told them. I even watched him get kicked out when I was at Kaskaskia on the first pitch of a doubleheader because he was cold and wanted to sit on the bus where it was warm. And by the way, he got kicked out for the umpire called a ball on our leadoff hitter, and Chuck went out and bumped him and told him he thought it was a strike, and so the umpire threw him out. And went to the bus and spent the rest of the day inside where it was warm. But Chuck always had a way of reminding me that baseball was just a game, and it was a game that should be fun. And I'll never forget the smile and the wink that he would give you when he knew it had clicked, all while the ashes from his cigar were burning holes in whatever he was wearing. There will never be another Chuck, and I'm grateful for the time I got to spend with him. Chuck taught me to have fun playing baseball, but it was Rick Jackson that developed me into a pitcher. As a freshman, I couldn't throw a strike to save my life. My pitches hit every zone but the strike zone. If you've ever seen the movie Major League, I was Odin's version of Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn. Coach Jackson had every reason to keep me off the mound, but he knew how badly I wanted to be a pitcher. So instead of giving up on me, which would have been so easy to do, he invested even more of himself in my development. When he wasn't dragging the field with some old box springs behind his powder blue Ford Granada, Coach Jackson was teaching me how to pitch. He introduced me to this thing called the strike zone and taught me how to find it on a consistent basis. He taught me how to change speeds, how to feel my position, how to hold runners on, and how to think my way through game situations. And he kept sending me out there, watching me walk or hit batter after batter until I finally figured it out. Ironically, years later, I was coaching youth baseball in the Dallas area, and I had kids that wanted to pitch and couldn't throw strikes. So I did what Coach Jackson did for me. I introduced them to the strike zone and taught them how to find it. And I kept sending them out there and watched them walk hitter after hitter until they finally figured it out. Two of those kids went on to play professionally. One of them won 2 Cy Youngs, was a 3-time Major League All-Star, and threw a no-hitter in his Major League career. I'd say he figured it out. Because of Coach Jackson, I realized my dream of being a pitcher, and because of him, I got to play at the collegiate level. But most importantly, I learned that improvement takes time, that struggle often comes before success, and that you have to win the game between your ears before you can win the game between the lines. Those lessons are still with me today. And finally, I want to say thank you to my family. Mom, Dad, Brian, thank you.
Mom, thanks for putting up with all that goes along with a son that wants to play sports. The time you invested, the sacrifices you made, the endless laundry cycles, and your never-ending encouragement. My mom's in this Hall of Fame because of what she meant to this school, but she's a Hall of Famer to me and our family because of what she means to us. Dad, thanks for never being too tired or too busy to grab a glove and have a catch. That time mattered then, and it matters even more to me today. And Ryan, when you'd grab a bat and let me pitch to you in the backyard, you probably wondered why so many pitches were coming directly at you. I know you thought I was wild, but the truth is I was working on my inside fastball. And knowing how many beanballs I went on to throw over the years, I'd say that was time well spent, so thank you. And to my Oklahoma family, Amy, Taylor, Allie, Garrett, and Reagan, you guys didn't get to see this chapter of my life, but you've heard the stories, and you've been at the center of everything ever since. And so I'm really glad that we get to share this moment together tonight. In closing, let me say this. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame is an incredible honor, one of the greatest in my life, honestly. But more than that, it's a reminder. It's a reminder of where I came from. It's a reminder of the people who helped me along the way. And it's a reminder of the responsibility we all have to give something back, to invest in others, to show up, and to make a difference, just as so many did for me. Because it's not always about what you accomplish, it's about what you pass on and the impact that you have on other lives. Thank you.
I think we found next year's speaker. Can you make it back next year? Sure. That list of people that you had there is a Hall of Fame list of people. Chuck at the top, that's an awesome list. Our next inductee is Nicholas B. Kleibecker, which I've never met Nick. I've talked to his parents before tonight started. So I wished I knew him. I had a story to tell, but his sister, I believe, has got all the stories to tell. So this plaque reads, Lance Corporal Nicholas B. Kleibecker, assigned to the 2nd Combat Engineer Battalion, 2nd Marine Division, based at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, trapped in a bunker containing ammunition when it caught fire. It is the veteran, not the preacher, who has given us freedom of religion. It is the veteran, not the reporter, who has given us the freedom of the press. It is the veteran, not the poet, who has given us the freedom of speech. It is the veteran, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom of assembly. It is the veteran, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is the veteran, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is the veteran who salutes the flag, who serves under the flag. God bless America and our troops. Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jessica to come up and accept the Hall of Fame plaque for her.
Good evening. On behalf of the family of Lance Corporal Nicholas Kleibecker, thank you for this nomination and induction. Words can't express how grateful we are that you've chosen to honor Nick and the hero that he is. As I was preparing for today, it occurred to me that since we lost him, an entire generation of kids has been born, started kindergarten, and graduated from Odin High School. So that being said, it stands to reason that there are likely people that don't know who he is or what he did to be deserving this award. And I know I only have a few minutes, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about the person behind the name. Nicholas Kleiberger was born June 6, 1983. If he were here, he would turn 43 years old today. I don't remember exactly when he decided to become a Marine, but once he did, and he had made his mind up, that's all there was to it. If you'd ask him why the Marine Corps, he'd ask you, well, because they're the best. He started incorporating little bits of military into his everyday life long before it was required of him. Growing up, he'd drive me crazy with all the sometimes. We didn't have to be at school at 8 o'clock. We had to be there at 0800 hours. He wasn't going to the restroom. He was going to the little retreat. He wasn't going to the cafeteria. He was going to the chow hall. And if you asked him how to spell Nick, he'd answer with November, India, Charlie, Kilo. He graduated from Odin High School in May of 2001, and then he spent his summer doing PT and working with his recruiter to get ready. On September 11th, I happened to get home before he did, and like everyone else, I watched the devastation unfold after our country had been attacked. I stared at the TV knowing that we were headed for war. And when Nick walked in the front door, our eyes met, and I said, well, do you still want to go into the Marines? And with the most serious look on his face, he answered me with, now more than ever. And it was in that moment that I knew my brother was either A, completely crazy, or B, he legitimately loved our country and had a deeply rooted desire to fight for us. If you were fortunate enough to know him, you know that B was the answer. But I think it's also only fair to say that there was a little bit of crazy in here too. So in October of 2001, he left for San Diego for basic training. I've been rereading some of the letters that he sent us while he was there. And there was something that stood out to me that he mentioned several times. And that was how he loved to watch the graduations take place. It made him so proud of his Marine Corps family, and he couldn't wait till he was the one up there on the parade deck with all of us watching. His time came in January 2002, when he officially became one of the few in the crowd. After basic, Nick was stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina as a combat engineer. And while this wasn't his first choice of MOS, he decided that if he chose not to make a career of the Marines, that it would give him a construction background to start his civilian life. He came home on leave when he did, and he often worked with his recruiter, inspiring young people to join the Marines with him. But because he did recruiter's assistance, his leaves were extended, and for Nick, that meant he also had extra time to go fishing and hunting while he was home. I know he visited Odin schools at least once during one of those times, because I came across a speech from former Superintendent Mr. Mark Cartwright describing his visit, and he said, I don't recall anyone who wore the uniform with any more pride. He also attended some basketball games, and I remember him coming home and telling me that during the national anthem, his eyes filled with tears. He saw a couple of kids looking at him and snickering, and he said to me, Jess, if they only knew. He wasn't angry. He wasn't offended. He just wished that they could understand the things that he'd been through, the things ahead, and how much he loved being a Marine. On Valentine's Day 2003, Nick was deployed to Kuwait and later to Iraq. Initially, they were told it would be a short ground war and they would be home within just a few weeks. As I read through his letters, you can see the progression that he wrote home to us that we should be home in the U.S. in a couple of weeks. And the next letter read, well, the worst is over, but they've pushed back our date. And the next one would say, well, now they're saying April. And the next one would say, now May. And then finally, I don't know what to believe anymore, is what he would say. And although he got frustrated with an ever-changing date to go home, he never lost that classic Nick sense of humor. In one of his letters, he wrote, I smell like a dirty foot, I haven't had a shower in 2 weeks, and I've seen enough sand the last 2 lifetimes. He knew there was controversy about the Middle East conflicts, but he knew things the general public did not, and he believed in the cause for which he was fighting. He said, I don't get to watch the news, but I know people all over the world don't like this war. They have their own reasons, but I think it needs to happen. And even though he was an engineer, he saw his fair share of battle. In March of 2003, he wrote, it's a strange feeling when rounds are singing over your head and dirt is kicking up all around you. It's a fear like none I've ever known. And I don't know how to explain it. We haven't lost a single Marine from my unit. And I hope it stays that way. Those were his words. But he was strong in his faith, and he wrote to us. Most days he prayed about every 15 to 20 minutes. In April of 2003, he saw the victory that he wanted so desperately for the people of Iraq. He wrote, for the first time in 59 years, the Iraqi people took up arms and are hunting down civilians. They are finally free. I'd never read that particular letter until getting ready for today. But reading it over 23 years later reminded me of what I already knew. And that's that he believed in the cause. He was proud to be a part of such a mission. And although we now know the war was far from over, it makes my heart happy to know that he was able to celebrate that victory while he was here. On May 13th, 2003, we got the news that altered our family forever and took us to our knees. Nick had been working in an underground bunker where explosives had been stored. The fire broke out near the entrance. Everything started exploding, and the bunker collapsed with him inside. His Marine brothers tried desperately to get him out, but the flames were too hot, and the explosions lasted for days. We still don't know what caused the original fire, and we likely never will. We sent them the very best Marine, and they sent us back a hero covered with stars and stripes. About a week after the explosion, his first lieutenant wrote us and said, I'm sure it's no surprise to you, but Nick was a pleasure to work with. You knew that Nick didn't want to be a combat engineer, but one would never guess that based on his work ethic and proficiency. He led his peers by example, as he regularly volunteered for difficult and additional duties. It was rare to see Nick without a smile on his face. He inspired us all daily. He was a true humanitarian and treated all with kindness and dignity. I want you to know that we thought of Nick as our brother and friend. We all suffered a terrible loss. Nick will live in our lives forever. General Hagee of the USMC wrote, in just a short time as a Marine, Nicholas led with compassion and total dedication. His fellow Marines described a man who was defined by courage, loyalty, and enthusiasm for his work. He was admired and respected by everyone who served with him. Friends described Nick as genuinely a good guy, the kind who would give you the shirt off his back. I'll take that a little bit step further and read John chapter 15:13. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for his friends. That was my brother. Nick was love. He died doing what he loved for the people he loved. Nick was truly one of a kind. He knew who he was and he stayed true to himself, even when he wasn't with the majority. He loved the oldies, the Atlanta Braves, and pumpkin pie. His absence left a hole in our hearts that can never be filled, but we find peace in knowing that we'll see him again one day. There are people in this room that remember Nick as a son, a brother, an uncle. Others recall him as a fellow Marine or a friend. Maybe you remember his big brown eyes or those gorgeous dimples. Perhaps it's the orange and black zoot he wore to prom or the top hat and cane he carried homecoming. I'm sure there are many fond memories some of you could share, but what's most important is that we remember him and smile because Nick wouldn't have wanted it any other way. And I'll close with this simple thought that's carried me for the last 23 years. A hero lives as long as his legacy will allow. Keeping his memory alive brings joy and peace to our family and brings him the honor that he deserves. He's a patriot, a true American hero, and today he has become an Odin High School Hall of Famer. Thank you.
I'd like to take just a moment. Could we have Nick's parents and any family members please stand? You recognized? Thank you. Good job, Jessica.
Okay, the next two that we are going to induct into the Hall of Fame, John and Barb Spears. Wow, I don't even know where to begin. I'm not sure I can even do justice to try to speak for John and Barb Spears. What they have meant to not only myself growing up, but to probably hundreds and hundreds of other kids growing up at the time. If you weren't playing jelly ball at Brent Woods' or Claude Howell's, or if you wasn't playing softball over at the Shanafelt field, you was probably over at the Spears' house playing either football in their yard or wiffle ball in their backyard. I know we always like to go over to the Spears field and play football because they had constructed a field goal. You guys remember the field goal? I don't know who built it, but it was a miniature size field goal, so you got to actually try to kick a field goal or extra point or whatever. So everyone always thought that was pretty cool. But to go over there and play from sun up to sundown, and they would come out and feed you snacks and bring you water, whatever, fruit punch or whatever. But you could just go over there and hang out all day and play, and they didn't care. So it made it a lot of fun. And to know John and Barb, just like Steve had mentioned about getting in the back, and Lori also mentioned about getting in the back of vehicles. Well, John and Tom Ingles were our coaches through, I'd say it was Little League, not Little League, but what was the next step? Midget League, they called it, Bantam League. Anyway, he was about 12 or 13 years old, so of course there was no bus at the time, so John, I think he had this this red and white little truck, and it had the old school camper shell, and it was just a little camper shell on the back of it. So there was about half the team would pile on the back of the Spearsmobile, and middle of the summertime, and we would close up all the windows in the back and play burnout. I don't know how we thought that was fun, but yeah, it was, 90 degrees out, and inside that truck with the windows shut, it was probably 115 or 120, but we would play burnout. Why, I don't know, but that was one of the dumb things that we did. But and John and Barb and Tom Ingles were tremendous coaches through the summertime, and John and Barb had done a lot. They spent, I would say, more than probably half their lives out at the park. Now that I live closer to the ballpark, I can see directly across there, and it's unbelievable how much time that they had spent out there. I mean, they would go out there. I'd see them going out there in the morning and paint, or just pick up trash and just do other things that they do. And Heck, I'd go to Salem or Centralia, be gone for half the day, come back and look out there. Guess what? They're still out there doing their thing. A lot of it, goes unnoticed, but, I noticed it because I could see it. But those two have spent countless hours out there. Countless hours. I know John was a big part of the Odin Little League, and that was back in the years that we had 7 or 8 teams. And those were Odin teams. Those weren't kids from Salem and Centralia coming out to play in Odin. It was all Odin kids, and there was even a couple of girls that played. We had 7 or 8 coaches, and I know John and Barb. They were a huge factor in the Odin Little League back when we had that many teams. So I know they've touched so many kids' lives, and just for their time and their dedication to the city park. And I personally want to say thank you to John and Barb Spears. All right, the plaque, their Hall of Fame plaque says, John and Barb Spears, Odin Public School District number 722 would like to express their sincere thanks for all the time you have spent in the past years with the youth in our area and the work you have done at the city park. Special people do special things with the use of their own time. This is very clear that you have used your time and efforts for the benefit of the youth in our community. On behalf of Odin Public School District number 722, we want to thank you and present you with the 2026 Odin Eagle Award. At this time, we're going to have Dan Spears, their son, come up and speak on their behalf. So I would like to welcome John and Barb Spears to the Odin Hall of Fame.
All right, good night, good evening, everybody. Scott and Jeff talked about maybe short notice and having to talk tonight. Well, I think it really just sunk into me probably 10 o'clock this morning. My brother called me out in Pittsburgh and said, hey, you want to come out for this celebration? Mom and Dad's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. I said, yeah, I'll come out. I'm always happy to be a spectator and support. But he's always kind of rigged me and said, you got to speak here. I said, why do I got to speak? I'm traveling all the way in. I shouldn't have to do that. So I actually had Dad write me a speech tonight. And, he's a man of many words. And the speech goes like this. Thank you. Now, just speak a little bit on their behalf. First, I'd like to congratulate all the inductees tonight. A true honor here at Odin to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I think on the plaque, the comment that really sticks out to me is special people doing special things. And I think with the group that you have here being inducted tonight, it's truly special people doing special things. Like Jeff had mentioned, Mom and Dad have devoted close to, I guess, probably 35 years of hard work, dedication, and service to the youth and to the community out of the ballpark. And for those, the young folks probably don't remember, but the ballpark really just started out as a simple little dirt infield with a lot of grass, really short lights out there in the outfield. There was no fence, no scoreboards. You had a couple of dugouts, I guess benches probably that you just sat at, and then you played ball. And over 35 years of service, that park grew into a complex. It ended up where you have 2 ballparks with fences, with scoreboards, nice dugouts, bullpens, batting cage, concession stand, actually a scoreboard room on top of the baseball field. So a lot of work and behind the scenes efforts working with the community really went behind to make that happen. So a lot of effort, a lot of hours was put in to make that happen. And as that park transformed into a complex, it really became a place for friends, family, rivals, and most importantly, a community to get together, spend time together, enjoy sports and each other. So we really appreciate being inducted into the Hall of Fame here tonight. We really look forward to seeing future special people out of our special community carry that torch and move that forward. So on behalf of Mom and Dad, we just want to say thank you for the memories. Go Birds and fly Eagles fly.
Okay, we are down to our last Hall of Fame inductees. This will be 2008, 2009 high school girls softball team. I was fortunate to be a coach on this team. This was my first year. That was my first year of coaching high school any sport. But my daughter was in 8th grade that year, so she was still playing junior high softball. Well, the girls played in the spring, so she was going to be a freshman the next year. So Tracy LaFoon, who was the head coach, had asked, "Hey, man, since Jackie's going to be playing next year, do you want to go ahead and start helping out and just be on the coach?" Sure, why not? So Tracy LaFoon was the head coach of this team, and our third assistant coach was Brian Martin. So us three were the three that were in charge of these girls. Tracy is not here tonight, so he had sent me his speech that he would have said, so I will read it word for word. He says, "Thank you to the Hall of Fame Committee for the selection of this very deserving team. Also the parents and family of these young ladies, and especially thanks to the players on this special team. They made the coaching of this team very easy. I would also like to thank my assistant coaches, Jeff Burton and Brian Martin, for helping navigate this team to where we ended up. Your leadership, advice, and lending an ear to vent and come up with a winning lineup is extremely appreciated. We are here tonight because of the 2008-2009 softball Lady Eagles. Wow, what a season this was. We hit the trifecta with this team. 1, we had an explosive offense. 2, we had a very solid defense. And 3, we had dominant pitching. And I'd like to add one more. This was a very fun and drama-free team, at least to my knowledge. I don't know if it was behind the scenes, but out front, it was drama-free. And that, you get ladies together, look out. It was, Brian, is that right? Was it drama-free? I couldn't think of any, cat fights or jealousy. I really couldn't. It was drama-free, and that's one thing now that I'm older that I appreciate. So thank you. We got half of our team here. There's 5 of them. We only had 10. So, but yes, it was drama-free. So I thank them for that. Let's see. This scenario was a coach's dream. One of the most special parts of this team is that they bought into our system. This team was all gas and no break. We wanted to set the tone early and often. If we hit first, we were scoring first. That was the mentality. We were not taking pitches. If you liked it, hit it. Most of the girls had the green light on the bases. If you wanted to steal a base, steal the base. Just don't get thrown out. Aggressive was an understatement on how these girls played. With Mallory on the mound, we knew defense was going to be important in the fact that when, or better yet, if they put the ball in play, we better make the play. And for the most part, we did that. One of the coach's best feeling in the world is when the other team hits a pop fly to the outfield, we had no worries about if we were going to catch it or not. We were going to catch it. On the flip side, if we did make a mistake, usually our pitching would get us out of any trouble. Speaking of pitching, if you want to look up Mallory's stats, she already has a plaque with all of her accolades on it. What a special player she was, and better yet, an amazing teammate. As competitive as she never got frustrated if things weren't going her way. She pitched and cheered on her teammates. We had a pretty good mixture of each class represented. We had 3 seniors, 1 junior, 3 sophomores, and 3 freshmen. And here's a quick look at the players. Freshman Bethany Blue Sober. She was a fearless infielder. She could play multiple positions. I think she played third base most of the time. She was one of the smallest players on the team, but would probably swing the hardest out of all of them. Our next freshman was Bridget Horton. Bridget was an outstanding athlete. She was super fast. She was an elite center fielder. If you hit one out there to it, she was probably going to track it down. She was also very fast on the bases. If she got on base, usually whoever was batting behind her took a pitch so she could get over to second because she was super quick. She had a lethal combination of speed, power, and defense. She was pretty special for a freshman. Our third freshman, Caitlin Helpingstein. Now, Caitlin had the nickname, and I still call her this today, Triva, Triva. Did that start in junior high or is it high school? So I think the story goes that in junior high, they were announcing some scores and stuff on WJBD radio, and her name, I don't know, a couple of hits. Anyway, for somehow they said Triva Helpingstein. How do you get Caitlin, Triva out of Caitlin? The chapel might have sent that in wrong. I don't know. Did you send it in? Bruce. I know, I seen Bruce earlier. Okay, Bruce Rock probably. I don't know. Anyway, Triva. So, ever since then, I call her Triva. So, Triva Helpingstein. She was a freshman that year also. She was our first baseman. She was an extremely good first baseman. Her height helped us out tremendously. She was a tall first baseman, and that will settle down any infielder. Just throw it over there, and Triva will catch it. She usually batted in the middle of the lineup. She was very powerful hitter at the plate. She was a smart base runner, not the fastest, but she was very smart on the bases. She wasn't the fastest, but you couldn't really tell because of her aggressiveness. Our next one, sophomore, Chelsea Simmons. Now, Chelsea, she was our only sub. We only had 10 players, so obviously 9 played the field. So I think the girls went searching in the hallway because a girl gets injured or she's sick or grades aren't there. You can't start high school softball with 8 players, so you have to have 9. So I think they probably talked Chelsea into playing just to have a 10th player, have a substitute. And I think part of the condition was, if you can make practice, make practice. If you don't, we're not gonna be mad at you because you're helping us out. I think that was part of the contract. I don't know, but anyway, she was our only sub, and we greatly appreciated Chelsea for. She never played. I don't think she played junior high softball, did she, John? Yeah, she came out just to help out the team. So thank you, Chelsea. She knew she had to be ready. She didn't have a ton of experience, but she played well. When she got in there, she had fun. She was always smiling and laughing, and we cheered her on. But we thank Chelsea. Our next sophomore was Kelsey Tucker Weingartner. She's not here tonight. She was a solid outfielder. We usually had her at left field. She was athletic and had good pop in her bat. She wasn't the fastest runner, but we won't talk about that. Okay, our third sophomore, Miss Amanda Hinson Howard. Right here. Amanda, I remember Amanda quite well, and I thought, before I looked it all up, I thought you were a senior with these girls. I didn't know, he was only a sophomore, wow. Amanda had probably the hardest job, or well, maybe the easiest job, I think, on the team. She got to catch Mallory. She just had to hit this. Mallory's going to go up there, just hang on to it, just don't drop it. So yeah, I think it was probably one of the hardest jobs. I've caught Mallory before warming up, and Mallory threw hard, and she has rise balls and drop balls up there, and yeah, it's tough. So yeah, I think she had one of the hardest jobs. She was a big bat in our lineup. I think she batted 3rd or 4th. Her power that she had, she could hit the ball to all fields. Just like a Hicks, by the way, your dad could hit the ball. You don't know it, but they used to have a band shelter down in center field in center field at the high school park. Your dad could hit him out there. He was Leon. He was a beast. He could hit the ball too. So I know where she got her power from. She hit the ball hard. Our next player was a junior, Amanda Binder-Furlong. She's right here in red. She was a special athlete. She could play any position that you put her at. She could be a third baseman, first baseman. I think she even tried pitching that year, didn't it? You and Mallory switched for an inning or two, and I don't remember how that went. Not good? Okay. There was no pitching controversy, I guess. But she usually played second base. She was a smart player. She knew what was going on. You didn't have to tell her. She just knew what was going on. And Tracy had mentioned that she was probably the most coachable athlete that he's ever coached. And he mentions that you were always a team first player. So, and I will follow that. Yes, I would say that's very true. Let's see. You were our only junior, and we had 3 seniors that year. First, Sarah Jackson Young. She was another outfielder. We needed a steady right fielder because when Mallory was pitching, she threw it hard enough where most teams would get around late. So that would mean the right fielder, second baseman, first base side would get a lot of action. And so we needed someone solid out there, and Sarah was that type of player. She stepped up and she played that position very well. Our next senior is Amanda Burleson Lyons, in the middle there. I couldn't remember whenever I was trying to figure out where some of these girls had played, and she had told me that she played shortstop. I didn't remember, and I said, "Wow, really? You played shortstop?" No, but I do remember. I thought she played third, but Amanda, she was phenomenal. She was not very tall, but I tell you what, when she swung it, she hit it. She could hit it hard. I mean, one of the quickest bats I'd ever seen in softball. She could turn on anybody's pitch, and she would usually connect and hit it hard. She was elite all the way around. She was a leadoff hitter that could hit the cover off the ball. And when she got on base, somehow she was always scoring. And then our third and final senior was Mallory Love McCacker. I'll pronounce that. McCacker. There we go. I have it, but it is spelled too. McCacker. Wow, you could talk about her for days. Her pitching, I'll just read what he said. The accolades speak for themselves. I'd say the most dominant softball pitcher to pitch at Odin. I second that. Probably the highlight of her career was against Noble West Richmond. In a 2-0 victory, she threw what is called an all-strikeout perfect game. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's never happened in Major League Baseball, and it probably never will. But, so 21 batters up to bat, 21 people struck out. That is unheard of. I mean, I think there was 1 foul ball, maybe 2 foul balls in the whole game. It's unheard of. And by the way, that's also the only game that I called of Mallory's pitches. Usually she just throws what she wants, but that was the game that you remember that? Remember? That's my story, and I'm sticking to that. But that game was impressive, and I know Dawn was there, and I think Mary Lou, and I think that was the only 2 because Mary Lou drove the bus, so I think that was
Michelle was there.
who? And Michelle, what? That's because you live that way, right? Oh, he was the coach of the other team? I did not know that. Why didn't you have someone bummed or something? Mallory, thanks you. I didn't know he was coaching the other team. Wow. Okay, we had 2 Odin fans there. Anyway, you missed the game because in a 2-0 game, anything could have happened, and 21 batters, 21 strikeouts. That's unbelievable. Okay, here's a few of the things that the girls will remember about the season, and I had messaged some of the girls, and this is what they sent back to me. They remember winning the regional championship game. They remember Mallory's 21 strikeout game. She also had a perfect game at Odin against Clay City. It was a 5-inning perfect game, wasn't all strikeouts. What are you doing? But it was a perfect game, so no batters reached base, didn't walk, hit, error, nothing like that. And I do remember this game. It was raining so hard, and the umps just wanted to get the game complete. And I know some of the girls were like, man, don't get it to me, because they couldn't even move. It was that muddy out there. I don't even know how she finished the game pitching, because it was slick. Another thing, we had a player show up to a game with no cleats. They were in their flip-flops or whatever footwear, I think it was their flip-flops, whatever they had on. And she asked me, hey, can I borrow your cleats? I said, mine are size 12 turf shoes. She wore flip-flops, so Treva, I guess you can wear them. So Caitlin, Treva, had to wear my turf shoes, size 12, and I got to wear her flip-flops. I think I was supposed to be first base. Lo and behold, she hits her first high school home run in my shoes. She says, can I wear these the next game? I said, no, you're not. Give me my shoes. It had to be the shoes, right? It had to be the shoes. Anyway, that's something else that they remember. And lastly, the thing that they remembered was the pizza party and fire truck parade around the town after winning regionals. They're just something, I guess, the fire truck escort. I mean, some people think but that's what people remember, and that's one of the things that some of these girls will remember. To close, just a few more numbers to throw at you about this team. They had 22 wins, which is a school record. They were the MTC regular season champs. They finished runner-up to a very good Mulberry Grove team in the EIC conference, which we dual conference back then, when it was part of the MTC and the EIC. They are the first and only high school softball team to win a regional championship. They lost to a very good Altamont team in the sectionals, 1-0. During the 08-09 season, we had 5 girls receive all conference awards, and they're all 5 sitting right here. Freshman Caitlin Helpingstein was an MTC Conference Honorable Mention selection. Junior Amanda Minor Furlong and Amanda Burleson Lyons were MTC second team choices. Sophomore Amanda Henson Howard was a first team Midland Trail Conference All-Conference selection. And senior Mallory Love, I'm just going to say Mallory Love, she was the MTC Conference Player of the Year, and she was also named to the third team All-State team that year. And head coach Tracy LaFoon, he was named the MTC Conference Coach of the Year. Tracy states that this team was probably one of the hardest working teams that has ever been on the softball field. I know myself and Brian and Tracy, we were extremely blessed to coach such a dynamic group of girls and hardworking girls. So, ladies and gentlemen, your 2026 Hall of Fame inductees, the 08-09 Lady Eagles softball team. You ladies want to say this? Do you want any of them to say? I know Mallory probably does. Mm-hmm. No? Nothing? Nobody? Okay. All right, Scott's going to close it out.
Very nice evening. Sit back there kind of listening. If you notice the history of Odin sports, especially the baseball and the softball, there's good people around these athletes. Steve had mentioned, all the people that he'd been in contact with when he was playing and stuff. Great people. So it takes a lot of good people, to be around all these athletes. Besides the great talent that they are, but congratulations to everybody. And the Spears back here, 35 years of working on the ball field. If you were being paid for that, how much do you think you wouldn't be around here anymore? Be somewhere down in Florida in a nice condo or something. But yeah, I remember the ballpark whenever there was only like 6 light poles out there with bulbs that you would actually screw in, and it was it was very dark, so, but, no fence either. And we got a lot of laughs out of that whenever we was playing ball. People would come out and go, no fence, oh, just hit as far as you can, run as fast as you can. But, yeah, a great evening, and I think I have one more note that I'm supposed to talk about is, the applications with name, phone number for being part of the committee. Is that correct, back there in the very back? Are out front here, so if you want to be a part of the committee, those apps are out here that you can fill out. And the last thing is there's cake, and I believe punch back there, and the cake, they said they got it at half price because it was left over from the 26th graduation. Was that right? It doesn't have anything on it about sports, it's a graduation cake, so I guess they got it at half price. And somebody mentioned Bruce Kropp was here, did Bruce leave, or is he still here? So the cake may not be back there, if Bruce is out the back door, Bruce, if he hears some food somewhere, he will show up. But anyway, congratulations everybody tonight, and thank you all for coming. Next year will be the 10th anniversary of this Hall of Fame, so I'm sure the committee will maybe have something a little special for the 10th annual one. And is it like February when it starts coming out? Usually, so everybody look out for about February to see when, information's coming out, and let's get a bunch of people to come out for the 10th one. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, thank you for coming, and good night, everybody.